The stories of heroism after the shooting on Wednesday are coming increasingly to the fore. And we want to tell you about one of those now. As Corporal Nathan Cirillo was shot, as that happened, immediately after, people rushed to that scene to save his life. One of the first responders on the scene is my guest now. He's the chief of Ottawa's paramedic service. He was nearby at a meeting when the call went out on the radio, and he immediately went to that scene. He's Chief Anthony DeMonte, my guest from Ottawa. And Chief, thanks for being here with us.
Good morning.
I mentioned you heard that call, you rushed to the scene, and what was the scene that you found when you arrived at the War Memorial?
Well, certainly it is a little odd for me. I was finishing a meeting at City Hall, and I was going back to headquarters when the call came over. When I arrived, already there were, I could see was a Canadian Forces member, unfortunately was down on the ground. His colleagues, I assume from his regiment, were already performing CPR, and numerous bystanders had come to assist as well. And so I approached the scene to get a bit of information and see what was going on.
And what did you do then?
Well, you know, I thought it was a cardiac arrest because that's what came over the radio. I had no idea really as the events were unfolding, and it was a dynamic morning that morning as events unfolded, and asked a simple question, so what do you have? And I discovered the information I was given was he had a gunshot wound, which took me back a little bit, and observed the wound and did what I had to do, the entry and exit wound, and encouraged. They were doing a tremendous job, the bystanders and his brothers in arms of the regiment were doing tremendous CPR. It was very effective. I could feel a strong carotid pulse from their CPR, so I told them to continue. And then I asked the question, is this a self-inflicted wound? And then I was told, no, he was shot. So then I realized the situation was a little different. Our first resources hadn't arrived. We were in harm's way, and I was then making decisions, should we evacuate the scene? These bystanders are in harm's way. But Ottawa police started arriving quite quickly on scene, protecting the scene. So we had somewhat protection from the police, although this shooter was still at large.
Well, that's another element of extraordinary in this. You're racing into danger, but at that time they thought there maybe were more than one shooters, and it was a very, as you say, dynamic situation. Obviously very potentially dangerous, and that's racing through your head, I would imagine, as this is before you.
It is, and my thoughts were for these bystanders. You know, I guess to a certain extent it's not our primary role, but that day many of our members had to put themselves in harm's way, and as did Ottawa Police and the RCMP. But our focus at that time was on the corporal and doing everything possible. Our first unit started arriving. I indicated to them that this was what we call a scoop and run in our industry. It wasn't a secure scene, so let's do what we need to do and get out of here to assure safety, and we can get these bystanders into safety as well, too.
You know, we've been playing, I don't know if you heard it earlier this morning, but we've been playing some of an interview with a woman named Barbara Winters, who was one of the women on the scene, and she was also trying to save the life of Nathan Cirillo. And she was telling Carol off what she was saying to him, the words that she was saying to try to comfort him and reassure him as he lay there dying. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, what people were trying to do for him? So,
as I said, you know, I was arriving and looking at, and you know, I hate to say from very professional eyes, right? So what are our clinical assessments? What do we need to do? What can we give this chance? But that did strike me while his regimental brothers were working on him and doing everything they could, and they were doing a fabulous job. These bystanders that were there, some helping, others obviously didn't know what to do, but that was fine. They came to the aid of a stranger, holding his hand in his final moments. And yes, I was hearing in the background somebody saying to him, you know, your regimental brothers are with you, your parents love you. You know, very tender human moments going on in this chaos. And I guess, you know, what I take away from this too, and the events of the last couple of days, and certainly we can't put it in perspective because we don't have enough distance yet, but the humanity that was taking place there, and perhaps that's a symbol of the resolute Canadian spirit that was taking place there in front of me, not realizing it.
I had another question for you, but it was about the evil that you've seen as you've responded to cases of bloodshed and massacres and violence. But I like your last thought. Let's leave it at that, how Canadians responded in that wonderful way, as you witnessed and have brought to us this morning. Thank you so much, very much. You know, there were dark days, as you know, Chief, but there are moments of wonderful heroism emerging, and you're very much part of that story. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's very kind.